Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I'm somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck and being one life event away from financial crisis. This channel is my journey to change that past and make myself a better future. This is in no means a how-to or an instructional video. I am not somebody who is any kind of investment planner, can offer any kind of advice. I'm somebody who is just struggling to get through. And I set up this channel just as a way to help increase my odds of success. So please join me on my bumbling journey if you are at all interested in that. Today's video is going to be my monthly setup for September, and today I'm going to have a couple of I'm going to be bringing in my outside books as I reference a couple of different things. I don't normally do that, but some interesting things have happened this month, and it's easier to have that to look on. We'll get into that as that shows up. So for me, when I set up estimate, whether that's my monthly estimate or a paycheck estimate, I take the hours, the dollars per hour I make. I'm an hourly employee, not a salaried employee. And I'm take the amount of estimated hours I expect I'll likely work that week, and I times it by however many weeks are in that pay period. For this month of September, that's going to be 4 weeks. Then I take out 25% for taxes. So that is $20.85 an hour times 38 hours a week times 4 weeks minus 25. And what I'm left with, my estimate, is $2,376.90. I do typically include an other line in my income, but it's often, almost always, $0. I don't have a second job. I don't receive child support. I don't have any investments or rental properties that I would be receiving any kind of regular payments. So that typically is $0. However, in the month of September, I do have $350 in my other column. This $350 is money that left my income in August that ended up not going to my bills. It went to other things that needed to be taken care of, and it left, and I knew it was coming back. When I went through this leaving and coming back situation in June and July, I was able to track it for myself in my book here. So I knew in my head what was going on, but there wasn't a space on this paper budget and this channel here for those things to come out and go in. And that caused a lot of complications for me. And so I wanted to bring that and fit that in here. And we'll see, I've made a couple of other changes a little bit further down to also accommodate that. So this $350 that's in my other column here in September is money that left my budget in August so that we could get the registration and the insurance taken care of and get that second vehicle road legal, because prior to having surgery done, all of the repairs that were necessary on that car got done, and it was now physically able to be on the road. It just wasn't legally able to be on the road. So we opted to go ahead and get that legal so that we could begin using that second vehicle, and know that as soon as the first paycheck came in post-surgery, that would be sent back to me. And so that's what that $350 is. That $350 left my August income to take care of that car. And then as soon as the first check comes in September, that will immediately come right back to me. Obviously not my first check. This was my other household member. So my estimated income in September is $2,726.90. The next thing I go over in my budget setups is my fixed expenses. My fixed expenses are all the things I have to pay whether I like it or not. I don't have any say-so in what those fees or rates would be. I don't have any say-so on what late fees are. You know, these are just bills. Pay it, you have to pay it. And so the first thing that comes up on here is my rent. My rent is $853. That's $850 for rent and $3 as the service fee to have that auto withdrawn from my account, so I don't end up with $127.50 late fees. The $3 is worth it to not get the other late fees, to stop being my own worst enemy, because what happens for me is I will have that money sitting in my account and not get it in money orders and not get it to the office in time. That happens more frequently than actually getting it paid on time when I'm left to handle that on my own. It's just one of those areas where I make poor decisions over and over and over again. I know that about myself. I had this option that stops me from getting in my own way. So I paid that $3 service fee. It's absolutely worth it for me to not be getting late fees, to have that completely out of my hands. Then I have the utilities. The utilities is $306.62. Now, I thought when I closed out August that I had completely paid off all of my old utility bills. I thought I was caught up, thought it was all done. And I went into the office and I asked them to double check and make sure I didn't miss anything, because I did have that chaos that was happening in June and July. And it turns out I did miss one. So for those of you who don't know, at the moment, my utilities get billed to the landlord. The landlord pays that, and then I pay him back. In order for me to pay that after the fact and have that not in my name, I pay a $20 service fee. And then I go and get a money order, and that is a $2 fee for the money order. So I thought I had paid this. I thought I had made this estimate. And it turns out I had missed my June payment. And I'm going to pull this back out here and see. In June, my utilities was $153.06. So I doubled that to get this $306.12 when I set up my estimate. And if we flip back here to June, July, you see I do have that $306.12 estimate, and I did pay the $0 here. But when we go to August, somehow I missed that. Let's see. When I did my August payment, here I have this $110.29 and this $121, this $132.04. Oh, that's not it. Now I don't even know where it's at. I had looked this all up. Somehow I missed it. So when I went over here to August, I had this $284.68, which I thought was that $131 plus the $110. It turns out it wasn't. This was July and August utilities and not June's utilities. So when I paid this in August, and I thought I was caught up because that was 2 payments, I really needed to do 3 payments, and somehow I dropped the ball in this section when I was referring things from here to here. I know that now, and that is what this is. That's the payment from June doubled, because I don't yet have September's bill. So June's will get paid, and then whatever September's will be paid, and this will be either more or less based on whatever September's ends up being, because all I did was double what June's is to make this estimate. The next thing I have here is my phone. My phone is $455.37. That's not what 1 month's bill is for me. That is an old payment and a current payment. That is August's phone bill got put into payment arrangements to be paid in September, and that is September's payment arrangement. For those of you who haven't kind of been following my saga, in June, at the end of June, all through July, I had several different things that were coming out that had very high price tags attached to them. And in doing that, in dealing with that and getting those taken care of, I did have to shuffle payments around for some of the things where that was an option, which was my phone and which was my utilities. And in shuffling that around in the beginning, that had a waterfall effect that just carried over and carried over and carried over and carried over from June, July, August, and now we're finally getting the last of it caught up in September. So this phone bill is my August phone bill and my September phone bill. I have 2 lines, 2 phones, 1 tablet, and the internet. And I did have 2 insurances, 1 insurance on 1 phone and 1 insurance on the tablet. I did finally get those 2 insurances canceled, so those will not be on my September bill, but they are still factored into my August what's due. Also, I have a late fee on my August, so that is $455.37. I know there are some of you who are listening to this who are very frustrated with these choices I'm making, talking about how I'm so far behind and I'm trying to get caught up and I shouldn't have done all those choices. And you're right. I'm not going to argue that point with you. However, that is what I had to do, and that is where I'm at right now, and that is what I have to work with. So we're going to move forward with that. My next thing is a credit card bill for $200. And then I have a subscription for $10.82. Then I have what I call old rent for $73.60. This is cleaning fees and repair fees for a place I used to live in. It's not old rent. I didn't leave and not pay my rent. I didn't get evicted and owe rent. But it's easier to just call that old rent for space and writing. That's what that is, because it's owed to the old landlord. Then I have some toll roads on here. This is the last of my small old debt that needs to be taken care of before all I have left in my debts that are holding me over is student loans. Now, there may be some other things that will show up, but so far nothing else is coming up. I'm the kind of person who makes very poor budgeting decisions. I'm not trying to keep that a secret. That is a very real thing that I have always done. And when these things show up, I ultimately end up not paying them because I don't believe I have enough money to do so. I'm trying to make changes and change my mentality and my behavior and get these things taken care of. But this old toll roads that showed up is an old debt that I chose to ignore at the time it came up, and I'm now having to deal with here. There are likely other things that I chose to ignore that will come back and remind me that they still exist. But right now, they're not there. This toll roads is trips. When I lived out of state, I needed to make 2 trips to IKEA and probably 3 or 4 trips to the airport, which apparently were on toll roads. I didn't know it in the beginning. Once I knew it, I did try to avoid them. Ultimately, I ended up being routed onto them anyway. So I have $198.85 in toll road fees. If I had paid these immediately, it would not be $200. It would have been close to $50. This is the price I pay for my poor decisions. Then I finally have down here an other line. This other line in my fixed expenses is something that had not been there before and needed to be added in. Again, beginning in June, all through July, and I'm going to go back to here, we had the car that needed to be fixed. Initially, that was going to be $1,900. Ultimately, it ended up being $3,400. So there was more that needed to be taken care of on the car. There was the U-Haul that needed to be taken care of. And then there was a prepayment for the surgery that needed to be taken care of. So in my budget here, I had things where money left my account, and I wrote it on this, but I didn't have a way to write it on here. Pay for car, pay for shipping, pay for surgery, owes me $1,000. All of these were things where money left my income and then came back and then left and came back and left and came back. And I didn't have a way in my budget to show where it left or where it came back. And it didn't make sense to have it show when it came back if I didn't have a way for it to show when it left. And that ultimately caused me some challenges in going over this budget here on this channel. Even though in my head I knew what was going on in this ugly chicken scratch in here that never shows up on camera, I knew what was going on. It wasn't here. And those kinds of things are going to continue to happen, not on a monthly basis, not with the frequency they have, but they're going to happen. And so I needed to have a way for that to come out in an expense before it came back in a revenue. So that's what this is. This other line is new and is probably going to carry forward either indefinitely or at least for the time being until that makes, it probably will stay there. It just makes sense to have a spot for that if it makes sense to have a spot for other income. Those things will occasionally come up and they need to have a spot for that. So that's a new line for me. So at the end, my estimated fixed expenses for the month of September is $2,098.26. The next thing I go over is my flexible spending, and my flexible spending are things that I have a bit more control over. This is my groceries, my dining out, my transportation, my art, and miscellaneous. Groceries, I can choose which grocery stores or farmers markets or farms I go and get my groceries from. And depending on where I choose to go to purchase my food, that is going to impact the cost, higher or lower for what I end up eating. Same with dining out. I don't have to go and dine out. I'm somebody who chooses to go and dine out an awful lot. That is my area of struggle and something I am trying desperately to change. This behavior, the dining out, I'm trying harder to change than this foolish expenses or choices I'm making here. Both of them kind of go hand in hand, but the dining out is my biggest challenge at this stage in my life. Transportation, I don't have a choice on how much gas costs per gallon, but I do have a choice for which gas stations I go to, and I do have a choice for how much driving I'm doing outside of work. And if gasoline is a problem, I have the option potentially of taking the bus to work. It's incredibly inconvenient, but it's definitely an option that has a lower price point than having the gasoline. So that is all my flexible spending. In groceries this month, I have estimated $140 a week, which gives me a monthly estimate of $560. In my dining out, I've given myself an estimate of $0. If you know me at all, you know that the chances that I'm going to get an entire month and not have spent anything in dining out are pretty small. However, my budget is still tight. I'm still playing catch up. And I'm still working desperately to change my thought patterns in regards to dining out. So I've given myself $0. Am I likely to end up in the red at the end of the month? Yes, I am. But having $0 in there is a mental trick to give myself a little bit more control over myself. So the estimate is 0. In transportation, I have estimated 1 fill up a week over this 4 weeks. So that would be, I estimate $3.79 a gallon times roughly 10 gallons. So I give myself $40 a week. That's $160 for the entirety of the month. In my art this month, I have given myself an estimate of $0. The project I'm working on in the background, I believe I don't need to go and get anything for that. I may find as we get into this that there's something that comes up, but as I'm setting this up, as everything I'm aware of, I should not need to spend money on this project. It's part of why I picked the project I picked. one of the other project options would have immediately required me to go and purchase something. So I chose a project this month that hopefully I should not need to spend anything on. That zero, that may or may not end up at zero. If ultimately I need to go purchase something, I will do that. That will be negative. But when I set up this budget, I don't believe that that's likely. And then my miscellaneous, I also gave myself $0. Miscellaneous for me covers two categories. Some of the things that come up that I had not planned for. In one month, I had to go to Staples and photocopy and email and fax some tax related stuff. I wasn't aware of that in order to budget that in. And that came up and that fell under my miscellaneous category. The other thing that falls under my miscellaneous category for me are some of the one-off things that are choices I make where I have to make a special trip to go and get them. And so when my budget is as tight as it currently is, I don't plan for those kind of one-off random things. But anytime something that has to be dealt with immediately comes up, that falls into my miscellaneous category. So while I have estimated that at zero because I'm unaware of things that might come up that will become mandatory, it's possible something will, and that will be in the red. I just don't have an idea of what that could be. So I can't be like, oh, I'm probably going to have $20 in things that need to be dealt with. I just don't have a way of putting that in there. And at the moment, anything I do put in there will impact something else. So my total flexible spending estimate is $720. The next thing I do is I kind of do my ending balance and finalize what all of that looks like in a nice, neat little bow. So with my ending balance, my income was estimated again at $2,726.90. My fixed expenses was estimated at $2,098.26, and my flexible spending was estimated at $720. And so squished down here at the very bottom is my final total, and I have written this estimate to finish out the month negative $91.36. Now, up to this point, my income has been a little bit higher than my estimate. Because I do my estimate at 38 hours and not 40 hours, it has been a little bit more. And so hopefully this month that will be a little bit more. But if it's not, I will have to make some choices about what happens in here. Either some of my flexible spending will ultimately end up being a little bit less, or these toll roads may need to be a partial payment this month and a partial payment next month. I would like to get this all done all in one go. I really, really would. But right now, as I set up the month of September, I don't have any extra in my accounts. I had closed out August with 40 cents in one account and 96 cents in another account. I do not have an extra $91.36 sitting in an account for me to use. So I wrote this budget knowing I'm going to have to be super duper aware of the choices I make, and those choices may have negative consequences. I'm trying very hard to get out of this. So we'll see how that ends up happening. Do I end up with more? Do I end up with less? What happens if I don't even get what I've estimated here? The one bill that's not at this time mandatory is my toll roads. This is the first thing that will take an impact if something has to. I don't want that to happen. I really, really would like to have only my student loans as October starts, because as we all know, October is when student loan payments start again, and I'd like that to be my number one focus. Sometimes I don't always get what I want in life, and what I'd like to be may not be the reality. That's just where we are. All right, so that is it for my September monthly setup. And it's a tight month. Again, they have all been very tight months. That is honestly why things have always been so hard for me in the past. It's a struggle. You know, there's not a lot of extra money. There's nothing fun there. There's no extra money. I don't get to go play. I want to go out to eat. I don't like to cook. I want to go spend money on art. This is my happy place. I don't have that. That's why art is so, or that's why budgeting is so discouraging for me. I just don't have the extra in there yet. It's coming. I've made huge strides in just 4 months. This is going into my 5th month. And so I know long term, it is very, very possible. It's just really hard in the immediate, in the moment. So that's where I'm at. That's who I am. That's the struggles I'm facing. I know those struggles and those choices are very familiar to quite a few of us out there. And I know those choices and struggles are very frustrating to others who've really got it all together already. But that's it for my September monthly budget setup. At this point, I will go over the project I'm working on for anybody who happens to be interested in that and wants to hang around for that. This is only my 2nd video for the month of September, so you may or may not have seen the first one. In this month, I am working on a wall hanging that's just a little witch hat. This is going to be the first project I've done on here that is going to be starting from beginning to end, and I should be able to get it complete in its entirety. Up to this point, I have pulled out old projects that got hung up for some reason and never got completed. And so they were already half or 3/4 of the way done. So this project is going to be the first one where we go from beginning to end. So from yesterday to today, from when I filmed yesterday to when I'm filming today, all I was able to get done was to iron the fabrics I plan on using for that. And so I have those all ironed out here. And so I've got all the blacks I'm possibly going to use, and all of the oranges I'm possibly going to use, as well as this purple that I might end up using. So all of those are just ironed, and you do need to iron them in order to be able to cut things out accurately when you're working with these quilting projects. If they still had wrinkles in them, then the sizes would not be consistent, and then things won't line up. So that's all I've been able to get done today. Now the next thing is to cut the squares I need, and this one wants me to have 61 black squares and 41 orange squares. So that's going to be the next step, is trying to get all my fabrics cut and then figure out how many of each color I'm going to end up having in this picture. The way the pattern is set up is a very flat single color in the blacks and a lot of movement in the orange behind it. I am going to have more movement in the black than this shows, and I may have the same or less movement in the oranges. We'll see. So that's the next step, is to cut out those squares and begin making some choices about what that will look like. I doubt between now and the next time I see you, I doubt I will have started sewing some of that together, because I'm probably going to be filming later today to get my paycheck number 1 set up. Today is Friday, and I'm probably not going to be able to film on Saturday and Sunday. So if later today I don't have the opportunity to do the paycheck number 1, then that won't happen until Monday. If that is the case and it does not happen until Monday, I may already have some of these, the sewing together started. So we'll see what this looks like the next time I see you. But there's not much movement on either front today. So that's it. I thank you for joining me today. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, please have fun. Bye-bye now.